job market Mark Anthony Dyson talks about on his podcast.
Yes. This isn't just about scarce jobs. It's about completely fake postings, fake employers, fake recruiters, even fake advice.
It sounds like a minefield.
It can be. Dyson really stresses vigilance. Job seekers have to verify everything, research the company Glassdoor, Reddit, wherever, be super skeptical of unsolicited offers, check email addresses, websites.
Wow, it adds a whole other layer of stress, doesn't it?
It really does. Coaches, you need to equip your clients to spot these scams. Critical thinking is key here.
Thank you very much for joining me on the Job Scam Report podcast, not the Voice of Job Seekers podcast, where you get to hear the latest about scams and scam prevention. I hope that I'll be able to serve up for you some very information about job scams and how to avoid them, how to combat them, to a victim, maybe how to move on and to watch out for the next one, because there's been several people who've been scammed more than once. Just because you've been scammed once doesn't mean you won't be scammed again, which is what we'll talk a little bit about today, about myths. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, to the best of my ability, 12 myths about job scams you should know about and that you can destroy today. I hope that you'll be able to get a lot of value out of it. If you do, feel free to subscribe to the Job Scam Report on Substack, and you can use it to search, or you can go to markanthonydyson.substack.com. I'm also there. You can also find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, YouTube, all that under Mark Anthony Dyson. By the way, if you really enjoyed the video, I include the audio from this in addition to other content on the audio podcast. So the audio experience is a little bit different than the video. And that's something that can been brewing up for a little bit. And I hope this will serve you. Also, the newsletter goes out every Tuesday on the podcast. And I, again, want to provide as much value as I possibly can. But today we're talking about 12 myths that you should be able to destroy today to help you prevent any further job scams if you were a victim, or help you avoid and combat any if you're still in the fight in your job search. Again, my whole goal is to help you job search safely and strategically. So let's talk a little bit about the setup here. The scams are increasing. They don't seem to be going away. There's a good reason why. The layoffs are rampant. They will continue to be rampant throughout the rest of the year, it looks like. Doesn't look like it's going to stop. And as people discover more uses for AI, that's also cause for companies to cut off people from their jobs. So you should be thinking about how your job is going to look like with AI if you're not already in it. If you're just now thinking about how to use AI for your job and for your future, you might be light years behind on this one because things are changing fast. And I've talked about it in other places and in other episodes here on the Job Scam Report, but there's some myths surrounding it. And I think when we talk about why we think job scams seem like they're slowing down, they're not slowing down. They're morphing and becoming bigger, should I say. It's like Gizmo, you add some water and they grow. And pretty much what technology is for the scammers is, as technology is beginning to grow, the scammers' schemes begin to increase and their presence begin to increase. And they're looking to get your personal information so they can become you to use to invade your bank accounts, to ruin your credit, to try to get jobs in your names, all kinds of things. So that's why it's critical in this day and age. We diminish some myths surrounding job scams. I hope to give you as many resources and tools as possible. Here we go. 12 myths that we're going to bust today that we can really destroy and make it better for us and make it worse for scammers. The first myth: if a job offer comes from a well-known company, it should be legitimate. Now, it used to be called job phishing, where they would pretend to be a recruiter or a hiring manager or some kind of company official and say, hey, why don't you come work for me? Now that's become a staple in their tool bag, so to speak. And I would say big companies are one of the biggest leverages scammers have been using. They're not just making up names. Let's use NVIDIA, for example. Now, NVIDIA is a mammoth of a company. They have a lot of employees, but If you hear from, and I've used the story before, I had someone reach out to me saying that got a job, they got a job offer from NVIDIA. There was an interview, kind of, sort of. There was a transaction of personal information. This site didn't make any sense when you looked at the URL, but they used a fake URL and used somebody's name who was an actual hiring manager for NVIDIA, and also somebody who was also a recruiter for NVIDIA. And they were able to bait that person. So if you went to look on LinkedIn, oh, this person does this, okay, is somewhat plausible. But you didn't ask for them to communicate with you through LinkedIn, which would have saved that person some time. But nevertheless, they are constantly using companies and different variations of URLs and emails. Of course, the ones we know, Gmail, if you get Gmail, when somebody says they're hiring manager, recruiter, is just bait for them, for you. You want to avoid. Then they could have created a dummy site that could have scraped from a real site. And it kind of looks like it. There's some anomalies, but a lot of people ignore it. And in fact, when I investigate a little bit, when I look in NVIDIA, they even have a part of this site that tells you how they hire and how they go about business. Another one is Randstand, the training and staffing company. And they do the same thing. And people try to use Randstand. And like many other big companies, they use a form of their email in order to trick you to think that's real. But if you research Randstand, you'll find they have a page dedicated to say, this is how we work, this is how we don't work. So those are the kind of things you want to look for. And yet, so myth, we can consider it done. The second one, the recruiter needs your banking information to set up your payments in time for you to start. To get your personal information, which you should avoid doing. You can always tell someone, I'd rather wait. Or better yet, just run, because not how real companies work. Recruiters are not setting up banking or anything. That's something payroll do because there's privacy issues. And most companies at least give the idea that they're protecting your privacy towards any employee, including themselves. Keep that in mind. Recruiters don't work that way. Hiring managers don't work that way. Number 4, scams only happen to those who are desperate or inexperienced job seekers. There is a little truth to that, but it is not exclusive to those who are inexperienced or desperate. I've talked to a number of job seekers and LinkedIn users. Everybody's getting them, it seems like. Whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're a job seeker or whether you're a seasoned professional. Even seasoned professionals have gotten scammed. Even cybersecurity professionals have gotten scammed. Even tech-savvy job seekers have gotten scammed. Professionals on all levels, executives, some of everyone has gotten scammed, and or at least they're subject to being scammed. Look, the scammers are playing big. They're just not looking for the most desperate. They're putting things out there, making it seem real, like a mirage of some sort. If you were in a desert, anybody can be really thirsty and want water if they have had water for a long time. It's the same way with new opportunities or something that might be convenient for you, like working from home. And that's what they'll lead with. They say, you can work from home. You can have this great salary. You can have flexible time. You can make this much money. And of course, when things are too good to be true, you know, all the possibilities of it going left is heading that way. So that's why this is a myth we've got to bust. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to a savvy person once, twice, and 3 times. And I've seen it on a number of occasions. So again, we are talking about destroying job search myths, 12 popular myths about job scams for you and me to destroy today so that we can know the truth and that we can move on. Number 5, scams are often easy to spot due to spelling or grammatical errors. This is true to a certain point, but scammers have gotten better. The schemes have gotten better. The way they're using AI is a lot better to scale. and they're sending out more and more to looking closer to the real thing. But most of all, you have to also understand the behavior and how jobs work and how hiring managers work and how recruiters work in order for you not to fall for it. You always want to double check everything, verify the person's real, the person's name, did the person send you the communication? I've seen it, like I explained earlier. We'll use real hiring managers of big companies to bait job seekers banking on they're not going to do the diligence needed to find out whether the person or thing they received is a scam or not. So just want you to be aware of that as well. So let's go ahead and review the first 5 scams. The first one we talked about, if a job offer comes from a well-known company, it must be legitimate. 2, the recruiter needs your banking information up front to set your payments in real time for you to start. 3, you can trust the big job sites like LinkedIn or Indeed. 4, scams only happen to those who are desperate or inexperienced. 5, scams are often easy to spot due to spelling or grammatical errors. So let's do number 6. If they know my resume, it must be real. If your resume has been easy to connect with on Indeed, or maybe you do have something up on your LinkedIn, then it's subject to get and subject to see for anyone to be able to become familiar and make it sound like they have something to offer you. If you listen to the language of most scammers, they don't know you specifically and know your experience specifically matches a job. Most of the time, and it might be rare in some occasions, that they will have something specific that's in your alley, but most of the time it's pretty vague and ambiguous. They're going to offer you a job, you're good for something, and they want to offer you this job. And a lot of people who are desperate or unsure or just really don't realize what's going on in their industry, they might be subject to fall for it very quickly. You have an opportunity, probably fake, and you'll need to back out of and not even pursue because, again, the communication. It's not possible for somebody to just come with a resume and have the perfect job for you. The perfect job really doesn't exist. Number 7, government jobs are scam proof. And because there is so much in the air, uncertain about the future of a lot of jobs in the government, they are not scam proof. In fact, the contrary, they're more susceptible to scams because a lot of people who've been working government jobs for more than 5, 10 years have felt pretty comfortable being where they're at until this administration had said, we're going to be cutting a lot of those jobs out. Now, right now, 22,000 jobs are gone. There's another couple of 100,000 jobs that may be cut or not. We know probably a portion of those may be gone. We don't know how large, but the uncertainty breeds more job scams. Scammers know and they understand because they use the emotional aspect of vulnerability to people who work in the government. So we've seen all kinds of scams, from anywhere from send us your resume, we'll get you back in the government, which you should never do, or we can get you this job because you're perfect because based on your experience. A lot is going around. There's some others have gone around, but government job scams are very prevalent right now, and they are not scam proof once upon a time. Number 8, I'm safe because I don't apply for shady jobs. Yes, there might be truth for some people who are very good in understanding you're well connected in your industry. You know how jobs come and go. You may have one of the few people have their hands and fingers on the pulse of their industry. You know how your industry operates. You know how they hire. And yet, there are people who still fall for the shady jobs after they've claimed they've been very careful. Again, because these job scams look so close to the real thing on the outset at the first look, people fall for them. And what we always have said throughout, since doing the job scam report, you need to look at it and look and again ask those questions. Would the hiring managers in this industry act this way? And of course, as a different industry, then you need to ask some other questions. You need to do your research if necessary. You need to check on the different tools that are available to check to see if this company ever exists. Is this the right URL? You need to question everything and vet everything. The best jobs are just not going to arrive out anywhere. And they are more than likely, unless you've known someone for life or for a long time, it's just not going to be given to you. So don't fall for it. So yes, you can say that you've been safe all these years, but again, it's easy to slip up every now and then. That one time weakness could cost you a lifetime of headache. Number 9, I didn't give them money, so I'm safe. True to a certain extent, but a lot of people did press the link, they did press the attachment. Therefore, they might have malware, spyware on their laptop, their desktop, or their phone, wherever they clicked. A lot of people haven't run their security suite to see if there's scams that are on them. So it's very easy for the malware and the spyware to get your passwords, private information, personal information you may have on wherever you have your database and passwords, and to be able to get into those accounts. People have hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from them all the time because they underestimated what the scammer can get you, how they can get to you. Again, I've said this before, that they get you before they got you. So you want to be more aware than you ever have before, because these scams are coming in. I go deeper in the article, the companies, the show this week. So be sure you read, but most of the time, people are very unaware of the long-term effects of just going to the site, pressing the link, pressing the downloading the PDF, going to fill out the company's website application, or even just again inputting the resume after you've uploaded it. All that's very dangerous if you have the wrong site. So number 10, I'll notice if scam if they ask weird questions. To tell you the truth, and you've probably experienced it, that even actual employers ask weird questions. So the questions aren't necessarily, but there's sometimes some of the requests are a little bit off. There's nothing wrong with them asking for banking information. It is something wrong about banking information if they get that up front and they haven't promised you a job yet. Or they may have even promised your job just to get your information. So you have to be very good at discerning how they are operating. And sometimes it could be too good to be true, and you just have to say, hey, wait, let me get back to you. And if you need to research. Now, I've said in the past few weeks, and I believe it's true, one red flag is enough to disengage and then block them, delete them from, and report them. As long as you have the information, will help them get it. And a lot of times, if you've been scammed out of money, if you've already been a victim and they've taken money, there's no promise and no guarantee you'll get the money back, because that's not how the government works, the FBI and the police. But you can help, and those are the ones that they'll target, because a lot of times there's hundreds of thousands of dollars involved. If you're asked a weird question, you've got to discern, okay, if this person is just trying to throw me off, or they're trying to get more personal information, so get rid of them quicker. This possibility too, you may lose an actual opportunity because of scammy behaving recruiters or scammy behaving hiring managers. You may take, and you might lose out because you're doing all the due diligence and you're being careful. But I'd rather be careful than to have a lifetime of problems with somebody having a lot of information, or you taking the time to have your bank accounts changed and throwing up all the alerts across the way. So just keep that in mind. Number 11, scams only target online job seekers. These days, I think predominantly they are doing, but I've heard of instances on TikTok, no less, where someone was saying that they were sent to a place where it was deserted. The address didn't even exist. But of course, they got their personal information before that. So The scammer will actually get all the information, seem like they're thorough, and then to throw you off, it gives them a chance to disappear. And you'll try to call them back, say, hey, you sent me to the wrong place. The number doesn't exist. Their profile on LinkedIn doesn't exist anymore. So think of those things. They're still out there, probably not as prevalent as the ones online. And again, scammers understand our behaviors. They understand the behaviors of those who are jobless, underemployed, and those who seem desperate to find their next opportunity and willing to do anything. So keep that in mind. 12, if I block or ignore them, the end of it. Might be true to a certain extent. Again, I suggest you do not do it because the last 4 could be confirming what they already have. If you've followed me and the report podcasts, articles before, I've mentioned you might be confronted by a scammer and they may already have enough information to scam you, but they're just confirming what they already know. And I've even mentioned before, the experts who believe that 90% plus information is already in the hands of scammers because of the way that we operated all these years and putting our information, some of us pretty reckless. And if you're online sharing personal information, like a lot of people share the medications that they're taking, the medical conditions, when they've been to the doctors, when they've traveled, where they live, even in the neighborhoods. Sometimes I've seen addresses shown on houses. And again, all of that may say, well, they don't have everything. Well, they might have enough, and they're just checking the boxes. So that's where you'll need to be careful. I've given you 12 myths that we've busted. And really, you can never be too careful these days. Data is big business, and scammers know it. And they know that they can sell and buy and sell again. But especially, it doesn't just end with job seekers, people who are employed, unemployed. They're also trying to do that to companies. They're also trying to get information. So one thing you could probably even do as well is to make sure that the company that you're part of or that you're interviewing for, or maybe a hiring manager or recruiter, say, what have you guys been doing to increase your security of the fake employee scams going around? Do you have fake employees? Do you guys ever talk about it? That may become pretty real and evident coming up here in the near future. We need to be able to ask those questions for our protection, not just, or job seekers will need to add to their arsenal of questions, so that they'll be safe and not have to worry about the company's vigilant because they already are. So that's it for this week's episode of the Job Scam Report. Audio, I've got some special content there, not here. So you want to dig in there and listen to the audio version of it. I have some guest contributions as well as some additional content that's there. And I want you to listen. And if you want to comment back on this thread where the video is, feel free. You can comment at the Job Scam Report on Substack, or you can comment on YouTube, or you can even comment on where you get your podcasts. So I am signing off right now. Thank you very much for listening and watching the Job Scam Report. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.